Hello, I'm Gil Smith. I'm here today to honor and give tribute to Ricardo Montalban. This is the 40th anniversary of the release of The Wrath of Khan, and after 4 decades, Ricardo's legend is still growing. He is, and always will be, the greatest Khan. Let's all celebrate his life and legend together. As a leading man, Ricardo Montalban represented diversity and opportunity. Ricardo Montalban was a very talented man. He played major roles in dramas, comedies, and mysteries. He was also a world-class dancer. He was paired with the likes of Charisse, Ginger Rogers, and Lana, to name a few. His athletic grace, as seen through the prism of the silver screen, won the hearts of many. As a result of his success, in 1949, he was the first Latin to be featured on the cover of Life magazine. He became known as America's Latin lover. When I met my future wife, Anita, in 1978, Ricardo was at the height of his celebrity, with ABC's Fantasy Island weighing in at #1 in the Nielsens. Ricardo was also leading Chrysler forward with his grace and image as their spokesman. Let's see Ricardo in action.
Everyone asks, Corinthian leather? Of course, why not the best? It's the same with our new Chrysler New Yorker. It gives you everything. Powerful V6, anti-lock brakes, front-wheel drive, rich leather, 770 protection plan. And Chrysler's exclusive Crystal Key program, complete car coverage with owner care that's even better than Rolls-Royce or Mercedes. Chrysler New Yorker gives you the one thing you always wanted in a luxury car. Everything.
Ricardo Montalban possessed a unique voice quality. With the sparing use of his vocal authority, and even with a whisper, he could mete out life or death of a soul with ease. Taking advantage of his magnificent voice, we recorded a pre-show announcement for our theater. Let's listen.
Señoras y señores, this is Ricardo Montalbán, welcoming you to the Ricardo Montalbán Theater de Alta California, aquí en Hollywoodlandia. At this moment, I must urge you to silence all cell phones and pagers. If your cell phone should ring during the show or you make a text message, you will experience the wrath of Khan. Please notice the emergency exits of the theater. In the event of a flood or should California fall into the Pacific, your seat can be used as a flotation device, allowing you to swim to Fantasy Island. Once again, silence your phones and Blackberries. Y ahora, sit back in your chair made of fine Corinthian leather and enjoy the show.
Now, with the anniversary of the release of The Wrath of Khan, I have 2 backstories to share. Star Trek intersects time, travel, and destiny. To illustrate this, in late 1942, Ricardo was starring in a film in Mexico called 5 Were Chosen. Not a great film. The voice coach for this film was Japanese expatriate Seki Sano. Seki Sano was an inspirational teacher for Ricardo. He and Ricardo spent 2 years together. In training for future roles, Seki Sano set the scene for the collaboration between Ricardo Montalban and writer-director Nicholas Meyer. Here is Ricardo describing Seki Sano in his own words.
Truth, humor, energy, and clarity. Very important, see. And so, in the actor studio, maybe later they did, but during this exercises, and also I noticed a thing about using. But Sekisano was just the opposite. It was, don't use anybody, give to somebody. Because it's in giving that you receive. Give, you know. Don't try to steal a scene, because if you steal a scene, there's no scene. It's been stolen. Contribute to the scene. Give. That was a constant message that he gave. Truth, you know. I benefited a great deal from him. His teachings have dictated my career from the beginning.
On June 4th in 1982, the trajectory of Star Trek was forever corrected with the release of The Wrath of Khan. With the popularity of the box office success, writing and acting careers respond, and sci-fi became a mainstream entertainment element. Make no mistake, the Star Trek is a team effort, and all of you being here proves it. After all of the speculation, criticism, and acclaim, Ricardo's experience combined with the young, inspirational writer-director Nicholas Meyer was a game-changing experience for Star Trek. Here is Nicholas in a recent interview at our theater.
I wanted to say that your college friend who watched all 70 or 54 episodes of Star Trek, you added recently in a Google presentation that it wasn't just the dissolution of his marriage, but it was the 54 acid trips that he took during that period.
If I'm remembering this correctly, he used to drop acid every day when he watched Star Trek.
Yeah. So it's very possible. Let's go to meeting Ricardo Montalban. Do you remember the first time you met?
Ricardo was the only member of our cast that I didn't get to meet or rehearse with because he was doing his television show. I said, "Why did you do that television show?" And he said, "My kid needed braces." And we had a lunch at Paramount. And I think what actors always want to know when they meet the director is he crazy? Am I going to live through this? Do I have to pull the boat over the mountain? That kind of thing. And Ricardo, as I'm sure you know, was a man of exquisite manners and enormous courtesy. But it was also a form of being slightly guarded until you got to know you better. So we had this lunch. He was exceptionally courteous and polite, and I had no way of knowing sort of what was going on beneath that polished veneer. I am less polished, and I don't remember the details of the lunch, except I said, "Here, read this copy of Moby Dick. It's all in there." And that was the only chance we really had to talk until the day he showed up for the first day of shooting. I had not rehearsed as I did with everybody else. And he was in full drag and, and that chest, which is his chest. It's the first question I'm always asked. Yes, it's his chest. He used to get up in the morning at 3 a.m. and work out for this thing. And that was the background to our working together, was that one lunch.
And coming onto the set, he had worked for 3 months, getting into shape. He was 65 years old, just 2 years younger than I am right now. And he came on stage, and you were working on green screen or planning
No,
to.
his first day was in the cargo bays of the Botany Bay.
Oh, okay.
He had it's a 6-page scene, as I recall. And it's all about who Khan is and why he's so pissed off at Kirk for failing to check when he was left on a rather Edenic planet. It was green, it had water, it had, it was like Earth before we wrecked it. You get the idea. And I thought, coming from a theater background, and I knew he had done theater, movies is always start and stop, coitus interruptus. And I thought, he's got this long speech, and wouldn't it be fun to just see if I could let him do it in one take and have the camera sort of dance around him while he was doing it? So as I recall, my memory is not perfect, but something like 23 marks that he was being asked to hit. First day. And we did a rehearsal. He was letter perfect. He hit every one of 23 marks. I was once in a movie where I had one line and had to hit 1 mark, and I couldn't do it. So to hit 23, first time out, letter perfect, it was all great, except that he screamed the whole thing at the top of his lungs. I mean, Khan is angry, And the crew were all standing around looking, going, oh. And I thought, what do I do now? This is only the second movie I've ever directed. This is a great actor. This is a great film star. He's got more credits than I've got inches to my height. What's he going to do or say? He's going to punch me out if I try to say something about it. And I really wasn't sure what to do, because I had only met that impenetrable, somewhat opaque courtesy, the after you, Alphonse sort of routine. So I said, okay, let's go back into your trailer while they're going to do the lighting and talk a little about interpretation. He goes, and very, very gracious inclination of the head. You know, I still don't know who's there, because I just saw him, like Brando or something. So we sit down, and he's sort of all attention with this enormous chest. And I said, Laurence Olivier once said that an actor should never show the audience his top, because once they see your top, they know you got no place else to go. He looks at me and goes, oh, he says, you're going to direct me. He goes, that's good. He goes, I don't know what I'm doing up there.
And it's typical Ricardo love direction.
So then we were, at that point we became fast friends. It was like, it's the closest I've ever come to driving a Maserati, was directing him. And he was telling me stories about directors that he worked with and who didn't give him direction. He was telling me about, he was going to make Latin Lovers with Mervyn LeRoy, I think was the director. And he goes, oh my God, he thought, Mervyn LeRoy, I am a fugitive from a chain gang. I cannot wait to work with Mervyn LeRoy. He kept talking about, I am a fugitive from a chain gang. And he did this great imitation of Mervyn. I had to escort Miss Turner into a nightclub and seat her at a booth. And then Mervyn LeRoy says, now I want absolute quiet, total quiet. No, I'm serious. It's time for these people to do their work. We let you do your... No, I don't want to be able to hear a pin drop. And he turns to Ricardo and Lana Turner, who's salivating at this point for the direction. And he goes, Ricardo, Lana, make it a good scene. And then he would say things like, Ricardo, give it balls. And that was
His directorial.
That was it. And he told other stories like that. But the other thing I said to him when we were talking about this scene that we were working on, I said, if you're a crazy person, you don't really have to raise your voice. Because with a crazy person, you never know what they're going to do next. And he flinched. And he said, okay, I got it. And after that, he could always finish my sentences because he was really smart. And so I would just have to start something. Or he would say, Nick, it got very minute. He would say, what if I raised the eyebrow here? And I would say, yeah, not too much. And he would say, he'd go, I know. And at one point, watching him do this scene, which is memorable, not me, him, memorable. I said to him, you should be playing Lear. And he said something self-deprecatory about his Hispanic accent. And I said, no one will care. No one will care. You enunciate perfectly. You should be doing Lear. And he didn't get to do it, But he would have knocked it out of the park. Look at Khan. That's as close as he got to doing Lear.
In Star Trek world, Ricardo Montalban has reached the iconic status. Now, let's join Captain Kirk with a shout-out. Thank you all for your love and affection and devotion to Ricardo Montalban.